Hey, what's going on?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I see DSOM. Who are you?
Oh, there you go.
Hey, how you
David
doing,
Summers.
bud?
Yeah, my name's David.
Oh, nice. You're not. You're definitely not the David Somers. I used to actually work with one back at D-Link way back in the days.
No, no, I'm too old for that.
I don't know about that, but dude, good to see you. What's going on in your world?
Well, I'm just starting out and I'm trying to find I'm trying to make the cash flow thing work. And
Good luck.
I know, right? But I'm finding these deals and the rents in some properties are okay. But then I'm wondering, what I have these formulas that I think are right. But then I have, what do I have? I have CapEx, maintenance reserve, property manager. So those things are all taken out before the bottom line cash flow, correct? Or are they included in
Uh,
cash flow?
no, I mean those are all line item expenses that are going to be subtracted from your cash flow. So essentially, the way to think about it. Oh man, we got Mila with the hat on. I love it. Um, the way to think about it is, yeah, you've got your rent, and then you subtract out. You have to accrue for vacancy. You have to accrue for repairs, capex,
Yeah,
insurance. There are about a million things
yeah, I got
you
all
need
those, I
to
think.
accrue for, and yeah, all that impacts your cash flow.
Yeah, okay. So that's what I thought. And then interest rates aren't helping.
No, but so here's the situation, and Mila can attest to this. Mila has been forced to listen to me for the last God, I don't even know, like a year now. That she's been kind of chatting with me, and at the end of the day here, yes, cash flow obviously is tough in today's market, but really, as you're starting out, cash flow really shouldn't be the goal, in my opinion, unless you have to live on that capital today. Cash
No.
flow shouldn't be the goal. Total return should be the goal, because it's very easy if you have significant amounts of equity to convert that into cash flow. The example I always give: if I own 10 houses, all of them are 50% paid off, and I'm paying mortgages on all of them for 50%. The fastest way for me to increase my cash flow is to just sell half and pay off the other half and just de-lever. So if you're able to very quickly grow your net worth over time by using what limited cash flow you get: appreciation, loan pay down, inflation hedging, and tax benefits, use all those to get as much equity as you can. It's very easy to convert that to cash flow down the line by just de-levering your portfolio.
Yeah, because I'm well, I'm nervous that my lender is a local bank. It's a self-contained bank. So
Yeah.
they do their own cash and everything. So I really like them, but of course they want 25% down, which isn't a problem.
Mhm.
Um, that helps me actually, I guess. And then it's always these
Well,
homes I'm
yes and
looking at.
no. It helps cash flow, but it does not help your total, your ROI. ROI is calculated by all the gains you get in that numerator divided by the amount of capital you have invested.
Right.
So by having a 25% down instead of a 20% down, you're actually reducing your total ROI on that deal.
Well, they said as I grow, they can work with my down payment, so they can go from 25 to 20, whatever, as I prove
Yeah.
worthy. But yeah, because my cash flow I'm showing on properties. I've been looking in Wisconsin and Jacksonville and northern Minnesota, and I come up with like at the bottom line shows like $200, $300 negative. So the bank I
Mhm.
don't think likes that in the cash flow.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of rent to value ratios are you seeing?
I don't know because I haven't calculated that.
That's a really important one that you should probably have a solid idea of,
What
as
is
you're
what is
you're
that rent to?
evaluating a market. Rent to value ratio. So for instance, how much does a house rent for on a monthly basis, and how much is it worth for those houses you're looking at?
Okay,
For instance, in Indianapolis, you could find houses that'll rent out for $1,000 a month and cost $120,000. That would be, 1,000 over $120,000. So it's a little below that, 1% rent to value ratio. That's a huge indicator of whether or not you have any potential of cash flowing whatsoever in today's market with pretty, not historically high, but relatively high interest rates as compared to what we've seen over the last several years.
Yeah, because I'm looking at homes that are 150 to 200 and their
How
rents
much
are
do
right
they
around
rent for?
850, 950 per unit.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough because you're at like a 0.5% rent to value ratio. Basically, like the rent is equal to the mortgage, I would bet, or darn close.
Well, yeah, I'm losing. It shows at the bottom line, it's showing like $250 to $350 negative.
I
So
actually think it's probably more than that. I think it's probably more negative in actuality than what you're calculating there.
So I'm trying to figure out how you find that house that's 150 and it's renting for 1,200. Each unit's renting for 1,200.
Mila, how do you find that house? Yeah, you just
Right?
found that house.
I find at least 2 or 3 houses a day for that meet this criteria. The problem is I submit offer, like today submitting 2. I'm just not selected because there are too many cash buyers out there who want to get it cash, who offer cash 100%. As I don't know about other markets, specifically talking about Jacksonville, that one of the markets that I'm investing in. And unfortunately, no luck thus far.
Yeah.
Maybe situation will improve if we're going through a recession. Don't know, but so far I don't feel it. But I keep trying. I'm really energized and inspired and motivated by Nick's successful story and all Fish Investments and all other students that we have who make it happen every day. But yeah, it just requires muscle exercises and keep sending offers and keep trying and figure out what are the clauses of your offer that you could sweeten up so it will be accepted.
Mila, in Jacksonville, I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I can say, Mila, in Jacksonville, what price range home are you looking at?
So I have a quite big range from 100K up to 270K, the purchase price.
And the rents there?
Depending, right? So starting from 1,000, if you're talking about, north of Jacksonville, and of course, like if you go south or St. Johns County, they could be rented for 2,200, 27, if you have swimming pool and amenities, and it could be even higher.
Right.
Depending.
Okay, I just feel like I'm close, but I'm not there.
Well, and so there are a variety of things I just want to touch on. 1, you have to select a market that can support it. 2, those kinds of rent to value ratios don't tend to exist in the A class. You're probably going to be operating more in the C to B minus or even slightly lower. And then, kind of the last thing is rent to value isn't everything. There are a lot of really, really crappy markets out there that have negative net migration. Hell, you look at, Detroit in certain markets and it can have 2% rent to value ratio, but good luck finding somebody that will actually move in there. So yeah, just lots of things to consider. That's just one thing that you need to be looking at. But if you're sitting at a 0.5% rent to value ratio, you probably need to look at a different market.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because these two actually, we've got Flora and we've got Mila here. Both of them have been able to find things. Now, granted, both of them have purchased in Indianapolis. I know Mila's also looking there in Florida as well. But both of them have been able to kind of find homes that, without too much struggle, that are above that, like 0.8%, no problem, 0.8% rent to value ratio.
Okay.
Now, I mean, Flora decided to burn down her house instead of renting it out, but to each their own. Dude, by the way, Flora, I got an update on your house today. That thing looks freaking good.
On my house? Which one?
Yeah, on your house.
Right,
The Risner, is it Risner? Yeah.
Yes. Oh gosh, but to me, it's not looking good because they need to redo the floor.
That's easy. That's a day's project.
I really like that house too. Yeah, I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, you have no idea, Nick. I think this house has been a struggle of mine to get the rehab going well.
Paul has done everything in his power to get this thing going. David, just so you're aware, Flora had, I gave her a hard time, but she had an electrical fire, I believe, in the house while
Oh,
it was
wow.
vacant. And so it's basically been a brand new build essentially at this point.
Oh, I guess that's good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as long as someone is paying for the.
Yeah. Well, the insurance paid for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Notice, Flora did not bring that up today on the conversation with the insurance agent. Did not bring up the story at all. Did bring up the like, hey, let's not ask questions. So like, let's tell as little as possible.
Yeah, Nick, I was wondering, like, if you want to like talk about creator financing a little bit.
Yeah, would love to. Yeah, and I know you were kind of asking some questions about seller financing earlier. Like I said, I've built my bones on seller financing. I'm known as the creative finance guy. Heck, you go on YouTube and the Off Leash channel. That was one of the conversations I did at Meta. So I'm definitely a big fan of it. I think you really have to identify two things. One, where does it add incremental value to you? And I think you really have to be prescriptive about what your desired outcome in that deal is. And then two, how does it, what is the value to the seller in those situations? So do you want to talk a little bit about, or kind of set the stage about what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about like putting I'm bidding on an A-class property, and then I'm all cash offer, but the seller went on to a larger amount financed offer. So their offer is 230, whereas mine is 210. So I wonder, like, if I offer like seller financing, I could go like up in the offer price, so it might be more appealing to get under contract. But seems from Nick that it's really unlikely in this market currently because the inventory is so low and people are willing to bid on properties.
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk a little bit about how I've done seller financing up to this point. I found houses that were hard to sell for a variety of reasons, and those are the ones where I got seller financing. And transparently, I added quite a bit of liquidity to the table in those situations. So I've never done it in a portfolio of less than 13 properties. 13 properties was the floor, because selling 13 properties is very, very difficult. And so what I did in this particular scenario, this was the smallest one, I brought a partner who wanted to get involved in real estate. So what they were going to do, they bought, and I apologize, this is several years ago, so I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but they purchased, it was about a $1 million acquisition for these 13 properties, a little bit more, but for the sake of conversation, it was $1 million. They were going to buy 7 of these properties. And so through a combination of cash and financing, they purchased 7 of the properties. In me facilitating that, then I got the seller to seller finance the remaining 6 to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I provided quite a bit of liquidity in that scenario. Now, I didn't bring it personally, but I found the liquidity, and then they seller financed the rest to me. That's how I've been able to do it up to this point. With the ability to sell a house, a single house, it being very, very liquid out there, given the fact that now, people are coming back. There was an initial demand shock when interest rates rose, but eventually people had to buy homes. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick here as we enter spring, and inventory continuing to stay very, very low. I don't know how much of a demand there is, or how much of an illiquidity exists in a single house. Now, you go find a portfolio of 4 or 5 houses, it's a very different scenario.
Nick, I think you're the best salesperson I've met. So I feel like I just wonder from your experience, have you just actually talked to, let's say, a seller selling a single house, like just schedule eye to eye with this person and convince this person to do seller financing with you? Have you done that before?
So I've not been successful at it, I should say. That doesn't mean that it can't be done. There are a variety of reasons why it's difficult. First and foremost is agents want to stay between you and the other party on the other side for a variety of reasons. One, that's the only way they really get paid is if they maintain, that relationship, and they're the ones that are facilitating the deal. And two, when money is involved, and this is oftentimes the biggest transaction of people's lives, there are a lot of emotions, and having an agent, somebody who's there to be your advocate, but also is a little bit more detached than you are, there is incredible value there. And so I'm actually a big fan of agents. And so with that in mind, agents don't like you to go face to face with the other party. Now, in a lot of transactions, it's hard to avoid, like you were talking about, where Ed accidentally got eye to eye with the seller. But in a lot of those situations, that actually will really piss off the agents involved in the transaction. So first and foremost, the agents are going to try and make sure that doesn't happen. My agent likes for me to get eye to eye because he knows I won't cut him out, and he knows I can probably sell as well, if not better than him. But yeah, for a variety of reasons, it's tough. And then the second is the person that owns one house probably isn't a real estate investor. They probably own a house, or they inherited a house. Like, they're probably not thinking about it the same way we're thinking about it, where it's a business to us. David earlier here was talking about how he was analyzing his numbers and subtracting out the expenses. That's not how the average real estate owner thinks about their property. And so while you're thinking about it like a business person of, hey, like, it makes sense logically, that's not why people buy. That's not why people sell. They buy and sell based on emotion and solving a current need. So if you're able to solve a current need, then they'll do it. Now, the last piece of resistance you're going to face is that they don't know you in a lot of these cases, and they don't really necessarily even trust the whole idea of a mortgage protecting them from their downside risk. Like, heck, I have a business person. I'm actually currently working on a seller finance deal. It's not for a house, it's for a wedding venue. Should close it. I was supposed to close it today. Upset it didn't close. But even in that scenario where this is a business person, this is somebody who understands business inherently, the idea of seller financing and being protected by a mortgage was something that was completely foreign to this individual. And this is somebody who's probably at a higher level than the average homeowner. So you're going to have to do so much education on somebody who's just kind of the traditional person out there. I just said a lot of words. What if that made sense?
Yeah. So would you think like this overall, if we ever have someone to agree on the seller financing deal, do you think overall process, the details would actually be pretty smooth? Like, would the title company just handle it for us really easily?
I mean, you're going to have to come up with 2 documents, and you can provide them, or you can get a lawyer to make them. Title companies generally aren't going to give them to you. Those 2 documents that, hey, you and I, actually more than that, but you and I come to an agreement for, I'm going to buy your house from you. Okay. It's $100,000 house. I'm going to pay, I'm going to offer you $100,000 for it. I'm going to put a $10,000 down payment on it. So I'm going to owe you $90,000. Okay. That will have a 30-year amortization, 10-year term. So I have to pay a lump sum in 10 years. If, whatever's left on the loan after 10 years, I have to pay it at 5%. Okay. Everyone generally agree with that scenario? Perfect. So what we're going to need between you and me is a purchase agreement that I'm going to purchase it, and then 2 other documents. One is a promissory note that will need to be written up that essentially lays out the terms of that loan, and that's going to be tied to a mortgage. That mortgage is going to be tied to the property. And so you would essentially go to the closing table. It would get notarized that there's a mortgage on the property, putting a lien on the property. So the seller has that lien. And then the promissory note essentially defines that mortgage and how that works, and allows that deal to go through.
You said like the title company would do it, or would not?
They wouldn't be the one to actually generate those documents for you. They will look at the documents, they will validate that they're accurate and they're valid, and then they will have both sides sign them at the closing table. But generally speaking, you're going to need either an agent to help you with that, or a lawyer to generate those documents on your behalf.
Got you.
Yeah.
Do anyone else have more questions? If not, I have more.
Eddie, what questions do you have on creative finance? I know you've got to have a question or two. I know you're hiding from us, but I see you on there.
I haven't joined the open office hours for a long time. Flora said there's a lot of people that were in the cohort, so
Yeah.
I thought it was for the
This is
public.
the one with this is the one where I drink and get a little bit more honest.
I don't honestly, I don't have any questions. I don't know much about seller financing. And yeah, I'm just learning from what Flora's asking you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's so one-off that I'm not good at like negotiating, that I kind of, in my mind, I'm postponing that into the future if I ever need it, but I'm not. There's so much
Have
for me
you,
to learn that that's
yeah.
one road I'm gonna just postpone for later.
Yeah. Are you an audiobook guy?
Am I what?
Do you listen to audiobooks or like podcasts or stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I used to listen to tons of podcasts on real estate mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would highly recommend. I know I said it at one point to you, but Never Split the Difference is by far the best book that I have ever read in terms of like how to be an effective communicator. It's not just about negotiation. I use it in my marriage.
Oh yeah, that's the Chris Voss book, right?
Yeah, Chris Voss. Yep.
Yeah, I read it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and it's one of those that I listen to at least once a quarter, just to be reminded and get those skills one more time. The whole mirroring piece, the slowing the conversation down. The mirroring is like a Jedi mind trick, the way that works. And I'll tell you guys, I'm not open to going into a whole lot of the details right now on this conversation topic, but we've had some quite a bit of stuff going on with medical recently in our family. And I've had to be the advocate for our family in a lot of cases during this time. And the thing, Diane actually was bringing it up this morning. We were driving together actually to the doctor. And the thing she walked away with after that is you just have a way of getting what you want from people. It's what I call my friendly forcefulness. And I completely attribute it to the skills I learned from that book. So highly recommend kind of using that as a way just to improve your negotiating over time. And it's one of those books that you don't read once and get all the skills. You got to practice it on a daily basis.
Nick, I have another question
about go for it.
Recent market. Since the market is changing, do you think it's safer for us to, when we do the ARV comp, we just do the within 3 months? Because after the rehab is done, it's probably another 2 months later, then we can probably use the same comp as we used before.
Yeah, if I can get enough comps within 3 months, I will absolutely do that. I'm generally going to struggle to find enough quality comps within 3 months to make that happen. So the way our team does it, and we literally do it every single morning, we do at least 2 to 3 deal analyses with my entire team. Lauren's gotten really good at it, man. She's a killer. She's going to be doing this on her own. She's going to fire me as her boss and go do this on her own here in no time. But so we go through it, and we generally have to use 6 months. In some cases, we even use 12 months, but we create a range of values. And in today's market, with things being as uncertain as they are, we are tending to be very conservative and go on the low end versus kind of, if the range is 190 to 210, we're going to go with the 190 for most of our, we're going to go on the low end, even though we know we can be, based on our construction ability, we can be towards that middle to the high end. We're going to assume the lower end. We haven't actually seen really much of a downturn in the market, at least here in Indianapolis. I'll say, obviously the Bay Area, very, very different scenario. Granted, now like the unemployment rate in the Bay Area has seen a little bit of a tick up, unfortunately. Here in Indianapolis in particular, I will only speak to this market. We're not seeing a whole lot of a decrease. And so that's just our profit in the grand scheme of things. Like that being conservative is incremental profit on our end.
Yeah, so I guess it's a common practice when we're under contract, and we discover some issues, we can like get like higher quote and maybe try to negotiate the price down even further.
Yeah.
Do you think like what would be like a reasonable buffer there? Let's say we counter like lower by 10K or by even more, like what should be our numbers?
There's no buffer. There is literally no amount that I'm not willing to negotiate. And I'm gonna really embarrass myself here with showing how cheap I am. This is an example property. Give me a sec. I'm gonna pull it up here. I think shoot, I'm gonna have to find the address. Yeah, this is it. All right, I was able to find it. Here's a property that we got under contract, and we are literally about to put this one back on the market. So just want to give you guys some context. They initially listed this thing at 180.
Yeah.
It got decreased to 175. We got it under contract for like 140. Yeah, something like that. We discovered so many things wrong with this house during the inspection period that we couldn't have predicted based on the photos.
Yeah.
We ended up getting, I mean, you can see what it sold for here.
Oh my gosh. So is this just you or is there a wholesaler in the process?
This was just us here.
Oh, okay. That's oh my God, that's impressive. So did Yeah.
but I would have been okay if they said no and I would have walked away. You've got to divorce yourself from the outcome of each particular deal. It's so like, and it's so hard. All of us have all this emotion tied to our properties. Mila's got her property here in the 46218 that she thinks she's going to hold on to for the rest of her life. But the truth of the matter, no, she's
No, I'm thinking 5-7 years.
But yeah, you think you're going to hold these things for a long time. They're very emotional. But in the grand scheme of things, they are just a pawn on the chessboard, and you're very quickly going to, like, hell, at this point, I barely remembered that address. I just happened to know we were about to hit the market, so I remembered it. But you have to divorce yourself from the outcome of each particular negotiation and say, hey, a non-deal, if it's a bad deal, is okay. Like that's a good outcome.
Nick, can you give us more details about after you went under contract, like what issue did you discover and what's the quote for it?
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of things. We discovered knob and tube wiring, fun, which obviously is quite expensive. It required a rewire on the house. And so that was going to be about.
Was that on a disclosure?
No.
Oh, great. That's great to know.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The other thing is that this is actually on a septic system, and the septic was having issues. Now, through this process, we got quite a bit of negotiation. One piece of that was with the knob and tube. We actually were able to uncover during our inspection that only parts of the house were actually still knob and tube. So it probably was only going to be about $5,000. But most people have an understanding that rewiring a house is going to be about $10,000. So we asked for $10,000 for that. If they wanted to go get another quote that was a little bit different, we would have accepted that pushback. But we had information that they didn't have, and we utilized that. The other thing is the septic was having issues. We looked at it. We thought it was going to be okay. Actually, we thought that it probably needed a little maintenance and needed to be pumped. It was probably going to cost about $1,000. A new septic system, on average, costs about $20,000 to $22,000. So we negotiated like we needed a new septic system. We may end up having to replace that septic system. It's totally possible. And we're essentially taking that risk. So we didn't quite get them to give us $20,000 for that piece. I think we got like $15,000 on that. And so if we don't have to replace it, boom, we are thrilled, because that is pure profit in our pocket. It's all about getting information and getting a quote, having that information for yourself, and then using whatever information you can to win that specific negotiation.
So is it that you propose, like, let's say 95K and they countered at 98, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's how it went. So something along those lines.
It's just something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. So did you, when you first proposed, because you got in for 140 and then you were like, okay, now we're at 95, let's say, just for example, what did the seller agent say? Like, do they just like turn you down right away, or what's their
They
response?
didn't turn us down. Well, so the agent has to go and give that to the other party. They can tell you, hey, it's very unlikely that they're gonna say yes to this. But they have to go present it to their seller. And so in this situation, the seller needed to sell the house. They didn't want to go back on the market because if you look at the dates here, it had been on the market for a little bit, and that's how we were able to get our deal. You can see, they listed it in August. We ended up closing it in October, the end of October. So they really didn't want this thing to go back on the market, which makes a lot of sense. And so even if they went back on the market, they were going to have to start disclosing, hey, there's going to need to be a new septic system, there's knob and tube wiring. They knew that it was going to be a less desirable house. And so we basically said, hey, we can solve this problem. We're a cash buyer. We're going to get across the finish line if you give us what we want. With the condition of the house here, a lot of insurance agents wouldn't cover it. A lot of mortgages wouldn't cover it. And so they knew that they were kind of over a barrel in that situation.
Yeah, that's just really incredible.
Well, now that's an unusual one. I don't want you to use that as your metric. I show you that as kind of an extreme scenario of like what is, no, I don't want to talk to you, Siri, of what is possible. But if they would have told us, hey, sorry, our floor is $110,000, we would have walked away. We weren't willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
And I think you had the similar situation with Ketley Avenue, the one that you just posted, like the price actually negotiated like twice, right? It went down twice. And like, yay, this.
Yeah, here. Yeah,
happened
another
a great
example here.
deal, and
I'll
then
pull it up.
I think it's just a saga, to own the property twice and then
Yeah,
negotiate.
so
for
it was
one.
funny. My
It's a
friend brought me
good
this
case
one.
study.
Brooks is the one who actually brought this one to my attention. He's like, hey, do you recognize this house? And I'm like, I think I do. Did I own that house? So yeah, I had owned it, had wholesaled it essentially. They listed it for 120 when they ran out of money. So yeah, we're going through, we're working on this thing. I think the outside of the house looks great. I'm not keeping that yellow door. I know a couple of people liked it in the chat. I just for whatever reason, that yellow door offends me I like a very deep level. So I think it's red or maroon or something that we're going with, but yeah, got it down. They dropped their price from 120 to 109 after it had been sitting there for a little bit. And we ended up getting it under contract at 90, ended up during the process negotiating it down to 80 because there's a mainline issue. Again, here's another one of those situations where you don't have to disclose all the information you have. We actually believe that we're going to be able to jet this main line for a couple $100, but we negotiated like we had to replace the entire main line and that it was going to cost us $10,000. So again, you don't have to share everything you know. You can share the downside and that they're going to have to disclose something, but you don't necessarily have to disclose that, hey, you've got a price for a couple $100 when it they're thinking 10,000. It's not your job to educate the other party.
So if I were to look at this house, I would be a little scared because this is like documents that I would be having some trouble like analyzing what it will cost.
Yeah, I wouldn't advocate a starter do this. This is not a starter's type of project.
Yeah, so when you asked me this though, you did like what would you cover just by looking at the photos? Like
so the outside of the house is perfect, which is a really nice thing. So the outside of the house is completely unnecessary. We're going to need a drywall, paint the inside. We're going to need new kitchens, new bathrooms. And so our total cost came in at about $55,000 or $50,000. And then with landscaping, with something inevitably going wrong, closer to 55 when it was all said and done.
Just incredibly low, especially I think 40K would probably cover the regular not that's just a cosmetic change, but this you're adding drywall. I guess the ceiling also this is drywall.
Yeah.
And I guess at least some plumbing, and it still could be 55.
The plumbing's actually in really good shape. Yeah, we're gonna need to add a little bit to add the extra bathroom, but yeah, overall the plumbing, believe it or not, it's actually in a lot of cases cheaper to deal with houses that are down to the studs than it is to deal with houses that are already sealed up, because all of the electrical's exposed, all the plumbing's exposed. And so doing that stuff means that you don't have to go in there and repatch the drywall or anything like that. So I actually prefer, if like, this is the perfect opportunity to deal with those things. Now, the other thing to consider is my cost of labor, my cost of materials is going to be better than the average bear. So what cost me $50,000 is probably going to be closer to 60, 65. For somebody who's doing like one project at a time. But I'm buying 10,000 square feet of flooring at a time. I'm buying, I negotiate packages of appliances. I buy, I'm able to go buy drywall by the pallet. So it's a slightly different scenario. I buy my countertops literally I buy 10 stacks of stone for my countertops at a time and then just get them cut. And plus I do so much work with different contractors that my labor costs are slightly lower. So it might be a $65,000 project for you if you were to take this one on. But yeah, this one's intimidating. I do not recommend this for your first or second deal. Like this is a big boy.
Do you know how long the rehab is going to take? Maybe
do you want the number that is actual or the number that was quoted to me?
actual, of course, actual.
Yeah, it's going to be about 2.5 months.
That's great. For like this scale.
Yeah. I mean, we're really lucky. We're really lucky. We've built up a lot of really great contacts that are playing ball with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, this I'll tell you where we have our biggest opportunity as a team, and this has been my feedback to Paul and to our contractors, is we're not so great at predicting where the next roadblock is going to be. So for instance, we've had issues with getting our granite cut. We should probably have that scheduled out a week and a half before we want the granite on the actual countertops. And so, we've had issues where things just get delayed because of, hey, countertops need to go in so then we can do the backsplash, stuff like that. So it's an opportunity. We're continuing to improve. I think we can get to the point that that's a 2-month project, but we're not there today.
Yeah, just a separate question, Nick. Like, what do you think about the hybrid mode of short-term rental plus midterm rental? So just rent it out as short-term during summer and the rest of it as midterm rental.
Yeah. Funny enough, I was just on by the way, if you guys aren't already subscribed and you're an Indianapolis investor, the Indie Investor Pod, great podcast. They're just kicked it back up. They had some changes over there. I was literally just interviewed yesterday. I did 2 back-to-back podcasts, and one of the things we talked about was midterm rentals. What do I think about a hybrid model?
You went on another one because you had one already on the podcast.
Yeah, they like me. They like me a lot, and so they know that they can get an energetic interview whenever they want. So I showed up for that one. Yeah, feel good about it. In fact, they want me to again come back and be one of the co-hosts, and I think I'm gonna wait until after I've figured out this whole baby thing first. But yeah, what was I saying? All right, so what do I think about a hybrid model? I actually think that you can do it. I think it'll be inefficient to do that model for a couple of reasons. I have you can look at my 2 houses. They're out in Fishers. It's 11178 East 131st and 11202 East 131st. They're literally right across from Fishers High School, and they are primarily midterm rentals at this point. Yeah, there's some short-term demand up there, but we were just kind of struggling to really get a niche up there. And so we transitioned to midterm rentals, and they've been consistently rented. Couple of reasons why I think there's inefficiency there. First is, and we were just talking about it actually with the insurance agent. So I think that was a fantastic conversation, but you're gonna have to switch your insurance type between the short-term, long-term, between the different seasons. That feels inefficient to me. Because obviously you want to be in a long-term type of insurance if you can, but then, just given the cost and the liability and all that, but then during the summer you'd have to switch over. So that's one piece. The second is Airbnb is a momentum game. It really is and you guys, and I say this in the most affectionate way I can, you guys are the nerds that actually understand how this thing works. But from what I understand, Google's a flywheel, Facebook's a flywheel. That the more attention you get, the more attention you get. And that's definitely how Airbnb works. So if you're shutting that down for 9 months out of the year, you're probably not actually just going to be able to immediately turn that on and see success. So I think that's going to be inefficient. And I see that in my primary short-term rentals. When I get a rental, I immediately get more. I don't know how it works. When I get a review, I see the immediate feedback that occurs within that algorithm. So I think it's inefficient. It takes different types of management as well. So you're going to need to find a great property manager that can do both. And I think that exists. But the other thing to think about is almost the inefficiency in days that it's not occupied. If, for instance, let's say that, and actually this is a very real example. I asked Bo to convert one of my Fishers properties into a short-term rental for a little while. And we got a couple of, with a very specific reason. I want my family to be able to stay there when the baby's born, and I don't want them in the house. So with that in mind, if I go get a single day of rental, I then during a month period, that means I cannot go do a midterm rental for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It blocks it off. So there's a certain amount of inefficiency in business model that exists when the two are kind of existing together. Again, I just spewed a bunch of words. Did any of that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
How about
I'm a fan of the midterm model. I think if you're doing the hybrid, it's inefficient.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how about the all year round midterm rental?
What about my midterm rental?
If it's an all year round midterm rental.
Yeah, that's what it is now. We've converted that, with the exception of I wanted to leave a short amount. Later, David, nice to chat with you. Feel free to hit me up. Let me know if there's anything I can do to be helpful.
All right.
Yeah, it does very well as just a traditional midterm, just a midterm rental all the time, with the exception of I made a very conscious decision to make a non-optimal business choice for the short term by converting it into a short-term rental for a little while.
Yeah, I see. I mean, is Fishers even close to hospitals? I mean, I think
there are a lot of hospitals in Fishers. Believe it or not, we're actually going to deliver in Noblesville. You can look up Riverview Noblesville. If you look at it on a map, it's actually bordering on Fishers right there. Because it's kind of on the southeast side of Noblesville, and Fishers is right there underneath. All right, later, Mila.
So I researched on the hospitals in Indy. I mean, there are hospitals, but the bigger ones with let's say above 800 beds. There's St. Vincent, which is there's North IU Hospital. I mean, I can see they're close to Westville, Noblesville. Yeah. Oh yeah, also in Fishers.
Yeah. So yeah, Hamilton County is great. Here's the piece I'm really going to call out, and I called it out in the interview that's going to come out here in a little bit. But you've got to be near a hospital and in a good area. A lot of the hospitals in Indianapolis aren't in the best neighborhoods, and the nurses don't want to stay there. they'll look at it in person, and then they'll pull their contract because the house is actually in kind of a war zone. So you want to make sure that the area is solid before I would take solid neighborhood over proximity to the hospital
Oh,
from a priority perspective.
I saw what the nurses do with this search online, but you're saying they are actually visiting in person to check it out.
So what happens is they'll book it. And then, so this has literally happened. You can ask Bo, he can attest to it. They will say, hey, your place is too far away. It's too expensive. Not interested. Sorry. And then they'll go to their place. It's right next to the hospital in Indianapolis. And they'll be like, oh, shoot, this is a war zone. And they call Bo. This has happened multiple times for us, that somebody has told us our place is too expensive and then called back and been like, hey, can I actually come back to your spot?
Oh, really?
Ask Bo about it. It has literally happened in our place multiple times.
And your place is in a not so good neighborhood?
No, my place is in a great neighborhood.
Or when that happens, it's in the war zone?
Yeah, so they book in. They're looking at multiple places. They reach out to multiple providers, and then they don't book with us because they found a cheaper option that's nearer to the hospital. And then they make the decision that, hey, actually, when they go visit it, they try and check in. They realize it's a war zone when they visit it in person, and then they call Bo up and ask, hey, Bo, do you mind if we actually take your place instead?
With the more expensive one and further away ones.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
How do you define if it's a good area except for it's an A class? Are they good?
It's got to be A minus, B plus. It's got to be good because they're going to be paying a premium. You got to think about it almost like an Airbnb. It's like a slight step down from a high-end Airbnb, but that's got to be kind of the way you go about it. Oh, hey, Chloe.
Hello.
I mean, B plus, can you give us an example on suitable B plus neighborhoods?
All right, so I can't say it's near a hospital, so I'm not saying that. I'm saying a B plus area that I tend to like, and it may not be B plus in one of the maps, but I'll tell you it's B plus, and it's moving more positive by the day. Beach Grove. I love Beach Grove. It's its own separate city within Indianapolis. It's surrounded by Indianapolis, but it's there. I love that area. I've got 2 houses there, and I see the development happening there. It's a cool area. Paul used to actually live down there. The 2 of us used to grab drinks down there all the time.
So how about, let's say, Warren Township?
Too big. That you're asking too big an area. Give me a neighborhood and I can talk about it. But yeah, I'm not willing to overgeneralize based on just an entire township.
Oh, okay. I saw the whole township is like a B. So
I mean, I would say that's the average.
how about Broad Ripple?
Broad Ripple would be A minus to A. I love Broad Ripple. Broad Ripple is where Diane and I go if we want to have a fun night out.
Okay, so do you think just anywhere north of Broad Ripple, or it seems to me they're already B plus / A minus?
I would say north of Broad Ripple, it tends to be a good area. Because Broad Ripple is already pretty far north. It's going to go north into Broad Ripple. And then you get up into Hamilton County, which is everything in Hamilton County is a good area pretty much.
I see. Well, I think I see the biggest hospital is IU hospital in downtown. I think there are good areas around that. Except for the super A.
There are, but you're gonna have so the problem with downtown is you have to find the right block. This isn't a neighborhood issue, this is a block issue. And if there's a boarded up house right across the street, there could be 10 flipped houses around you. But if there's that one boarded up house across the street, it's going to be a turnoff to somebody who's coming from out of the area. And so you want to be the last house that's getting flipped in that area, not the first, if you're going to be doing a midterm rental.
Well, it's so interesting to hear if someone is that sensitive, because when I visit Indy, like I look at like the C neighborhood, I feel okay. They're not too super bad.
Depends on depends on the C class neighborhood, but yeah.
Yeah.
But sounds like you just live in the hood there in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, Eddie and Chloe, you guys have questions?
Yeah, pressure's on. You're just leaving the pressure on Florida to drive the conversation.
Laura has a
So,
lot of good questions. So
go Chloe.
no, I don't have a question. I mean, Flora has a lot of questions. So listen to my question is enough.
Okay, then I can keep going with my one-on-one.
Yeah, keep going, Flora.
Yeah, so just unrelated. So how do you think about like weighing getting into contract first versus getting a good price, yeah, but not winning the contract?
I apologize. I'm not following.
Okay, so okay, for example, we're offering on a house, like we're debating like whether to up our offer to make it more appealing to win. So do you think this time, like, how do you weigh just up the offer or not?
I have a good idea of what my construction costs are going to be before I walk in the door. Now, I'm not going to be overly aggressive and say, hey, like, I've got to replace every mechanical in the place by any means. But I've got a pretty good idea. I have a very strict criteria of what I'll feel good about if I buy the house.
So
And if I don't think I will feel good about it, then I don't deviate. I don't deviate from my rules.
okay, so I've done like the rehab analysis for a bit now, so I feel like it's kind of a set number. Oh, it's always around that. So I also learned this from like a wholesaler. It's like it's based on the so it's based on three categories. It's whether a light rehab, which is just floor and paint. The medium rehab is floor paint and kitchen and bathroom, and the heavy rehab. So it's like it's just the three categories. And based on the square footage, I mean, it's like the medium type of rehab is under 1,500 square foot. It's always around 40K. So do you think is that what's going on in your head? And like you can see like this needs this kind of medium finish, then it's probably around 40K without any other issues.
I'm going to be honest. I'm generally assuming it's going to be more than 40K. Now, granted, I'm taking on places that are a little bit more beat up. But yeah, we haven't done a 40K rehab in a while. But yeah, if you're just doing lipstick on the pig, then yeah, 30, 40K can do it. But if you're having to get into anything real, if you're having to add a bathroom or anything like that, you're not doing that for 40K.
Okay, not adding, but just to redo the whole existing bathroom. So
yeah, I'd say 40K could do it. It's an overgeneralization. I'm not actually, no. I backtrack. I'm not willing to say that because there's so many things wrong that could be wrong with the house, and wholesalers are the worst. I'm actually going to preface this entire conversation with wholesalers are the worst because all they're trying to do is sell a house. So they want to overgeneralize. They want to be able to very quickly be able to analyze something so that they can send it out to a bunch of sheep who they hope will eventually buy it. And I would say this to Brooks's face, who is my neighbor, good friend, and a wholesaler. I would say that wholesalers are the worst at estimating rehab costs. So no, I backtrack everything I said. You've got to get more granular than that.
what I'm trying to ask you is, like you said, you have a good sense when you just look at the picture on what the cost would be. So
Yeah.
we want to have like fixed idea as you. So like what kind of finish we see and what kind of number would we have?
I go into the value add calculator. I figure out what my per unit cost is for all of those things, and I will literally. I know it sounds like I have a good idea when I look at it. But before I even show it to Paul works for me. He literally is an employee of Off Leash Investments. But before I will even waste his time, I will go through that just to validate that I'm in the right ballpark. And I'll tell him, hey, I'm at 42. Where are you at when we look through this? But I literally, I go through that step before I will go and I will spend another person's time, even if they're my employee.
So the unit per unit cost, does it come down to, let's say, subfloor, the drywall, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. If I know those things need to be done, I'll be sure to add them. And if I see something wrong with the house that's not in there, I'll just put it in like some number, like in the unexpected square foot, so that I've at least got something there to account for it. Like I might not necessarily know how much, I don't necessarily know how much subflooring is going to cost. If all I see is that the ground is like, all we have are beams there on the ground, I don't necessarily know how much a subfloor is going to be. So I'll say, hey, it's a 1,000 square. I'll say, $4 a square foot, and then Paul can correct me later. But yeah, I will always go through that calculator and try and estimate on a per line item basis how much that house is going to cost me to fix.
I see. I've been doing that, but thing is, I feel like it always comes down to similar numbers in the ballpark. And also
Probably.
add on this morning I talked to you about like optimistically estimating the rehab so we can hopefully get a higher offer price. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm rid of the unexpected from my calculation. But you're saying you actually have that.
So I'll put in unexpected for my own calculations. I won't use that as part of my offer price because again, I want to have that ability to renegotiate.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you've got to have it, just like you do with your banker. I hope none of them ever listen to this conversation. But you have your optimistic numbers that you send to your banker, but your own numbers are probably going to be a little bit more conservative. I do the same thing when I'm making an offer. I will send my offer based on the conservative, but I'll know that, hey, there's going to be things in here that I'm going to need to negotiate. Now it's going to impact the price, but it's also going to impact the amount of rehab as well.
So I know we send an offer as long as we think with our budget it makes sense. But if you have a conservative rehab number, you have a real number you have in mind. So what if there what if when you look at the listing price, you see like the gap, like if you let's say for the first round you offer like 20K below, and when you go under contract, then you also still need to, let's say, negotiate 30K below. If that's the case, like, would you adjust so that like maybe you offer firstly 30K below and this leave the 20K below after?
You want to win in each round of the negotiation as much as you possibly can. But if it's a competitive situation, then you're not going to be able to probably get that 30 off on the first round. You're probably only going to get 20. And then you have to use loss aversion once it's already under contract to get the 30 on the next round versus 20 on the next round.
Yeah, so you would base on like how competitive, let's say like the number of saves on Zillow, stuff like that.
I mean, I'm not offering on houses that are brand new. Like if it's 1 day, 3 day, 5 day old, I'm probably not offering on that house because
that's okay.
Because those are the ones that, like, I want the ones that have been sitting there for a minute. But I'm different. Like, again, my strategy probably shouldn't be identical to you guys because I'm willing to take on the hardest projects. I got a text from Paul during this conversation that he said, holy crap, this house is only going to cost us $110,000 to fix up. You need to buy this house. Like, that's not the kind of project that you guys should buy. Like, that's crazy banana pants. Like, that gives me heart palpitations a little bit when he says that. So like, yeah, you have to find that kind of happy medium ground. So yeah, reach out to your agent, figure out how many other showings there are, use that to your advantage. Yeah, take the houses that have been on the market for a little bit, but I don't recommend finding like the ones like Kitley, like we were just talking about a minute ago. I don't recommend Kitley. I don't recommend $110,000 rehabs. But find the ones that have been sitting there for a minute that were a little bit mispriced, that people haven't been interested in, and then go at them. Find the ones that are at the wrong price. The house is at $204,000 when it really, people use the under 200 as their metric. And go find the ones that are just slightly wrong that other people aren't looking at for whatever reason. Find those inefficiencies. That's the opportunity.
If we put like 100K as the rehab, then based on our standard, you need a 50K for equity. Then it's like 150K above above the.
Yeah, so this is a house that is on the market. It's an off-market property at $42,000 right now. We have the ARV at 250, and he says he can do it for 110.
Oh, you said that is on market for what?
No, it's off market. It's off market for 42. 42.
42, and the ARV is like, oh gosh.
But like that is a kind of project that, and again, like I was saying earlier, my cost of rehab is going to be cheaper than most people. For most people, that might be $130,000, $140,000 rehab. And so yes, that's awesome that it's a 70K equity build in that scenario, but for us, it's a little bit more appealing.
So that when you say that most people, you mean most people outside of using poll, or do you mean us?
So contractors give me a better price, even using, because there are 2 contractors that literally won't schedule for anybody other than Paul. Now, granted, I have 10 right now. I have 10 to 12 active rehab projects going at any given point in time, and so I'm keeping most of their crews completely busy. So yeah, their cost of labor is a little bit lower for me than it is for the average person, even that Paul comes with, because they're going to have to invoice somebody new. There's that whole the cost of a new customer is 10 times as much as the cost of an existing customer. And they know I got 4 invoices from them today. I paid 4 invoices today for like $80,000 in, same day, no issues. They know they never have to chase me for $1. So yeah, Paul helps lower costs for sure. But then also I am in a uniquely blessed position.
Yeah, naturally, since you're his boss, literally.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. Paul isn't the contractor. The contractors are third parties that exist out there.
Yeah.
Like George, Eduardo, those are third party guys that run their own companies that we do a ton of business with. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. What one last question? Yeah, I'll open it up for Eddie, for Mila. Yeah. What's going on? What other questions can I answer here before I hop off? I'm doing good on time today.
Question that I'm dealing right now, because I'm sending you offer for a property that the seller disclosure remarks saying that it's estate sale. And when I asked my agent, hey, should I worry? Because I know we should go through probate and 6 months period, whatever. And he told like, no, it's all done. And right now it's finished and it's just hit on the market. So you shouldn't be worried. And I just wanted to confirm with you, I should not be worried about anything regarding estate
I wouldn't
sale.
be worried, but I would have very distinct closing dates on my purchase agreement that, hey, if things start to slip because of issues with probate, anything that comes up, title issues that come up, you have the ability to get out if you want to.
Okay, got it.
Yep. I've had 2 houses I actually purchased that had ended up having title issues. One of them because of probate, one of them because of not. You guys can actually look up one of them. It's 302. Actually, one of them was 103 South Kitley. That was one house that I got under contract and we didn't close for like 6 months. That wasn't a probate issue. The other one was a probate issue. You can look it up. It's 3021 Taft.
Wait,
we just finished the
3201.
3021. So it's 3 single family homes. It's 3021, 3023, 3025.
Okay.
And Taft, TAFT. And we've just listed a couple of them for rent. I don't even know if they're on Zillow yet. These were homes that ended up, I got them under contract in August of 2021. I did not close on those homes until November of 2022 because of things getting tied up. Now, the deal was so good, I was willing to just sit there and wait for it. But yeah, they can cause issues. So I want to make sure that you have an out that you can get your earnest money back out should things get delayed because of title.
Right. So if there are title issues from their end, then I need to include a specific clause in that in my offer agreement, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Nice.
Good to know. Thank you.
Eddie, any last questions here? I know we've just been your most entertaining podcast of the day.
No, was just tuning in.
Dude, good to hear your voice. I don't feel like I get to see you enough anymore. I miss you, bud.
Yeah, I have one banked one-on-one that I want to try to get in before your baby comes. So we'll connect.
Shit, man. It could be any day. You better hurry.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll talk to Lauren.
Well, we're at 36 weeks. We're at 36 and a half weeks. I have the under on whether or not we're going to hit 40.
Okay. I'll talk to Lauren.
Perfect. And she has a link also if you do have any bank. It's makeup.giulioni.com. I'm posting it in the chat. So you can actually just book it without having to go through her.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'm about to go enjoy my weekend. Oh man, happy St. Patrick's Day. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.